Cory, good to see you. Thanks for being with us on the show. So obviously,
good to see you, Sean.
The American people, they care about inflation. They care about the economy. And Janet Yellen, she's been at the Fed and now she's at the Treasury. That's in her purview. She could talk about that. But right now she's going to Arizona to talk about democracy. What's your take, Cory Mills?
Well, look, I think that when you talk to the average American, the Gallup poll that just came out shows that cost of living and inflation is the 41% of Americans are concerned about it, and they should be. When you look at where we're at, housing rates at 7.22% for our mortgage rates, that's up 5 basis points just from last week. And when you look at the concerns of the American people, especially talking about economy, it was 41% in this Gallup poll compared to 32% in 2022. And prior to that, the highest that we had seen this concern by the American people was 18% in 2008. Now we're facing $35.6 trillion in deficit. Next year, you're going to spend over $900 billion just servicing the interest rates alone, which exceeds our national defense annual spending. So I think the American people are seeing and feeling the effects of Bidenomics every time they go to the gas pump and every time they go to the grocery store.
I read through Janet Yellen's speech, and, well, one thing jumped out, a bold lie. And it astonishes me that they keep telling these lies. We took office in the depths of the recession brought on by the pandemic. Donald Trump left office with the economy growing in the fourth quarter of 2020 at 4.3%. There is zero reason for them to spend the trillions of dollars that they did. But then they have the audacity to talk about authoritarians and chipping away at democracy when Joe Biden has imposed $1.3 trillion in costs on every single damn taxpayer in this country by executive fiat and trampled on you and Congress and trampled on the Supreme Court with the student loan giveaways and that moratorium on evictions. Remember that? He did it knowing that the Supreme Court would shoot it down.
Well, and he's still continuing to do it, Dagan, even though the Supreme Court ruled that it was unconstitutional for him to bypass Article 1 of Congress to set aside this money for these college bailouts. He's doing it. And what do we know he's doing? He's buying votes. That's what we know that he's trying to do with the American taxpayers. And let's go ahead and add into the fact that his foreign supplemental package had $61 billion going over to Ukraine, which, in my opinion, was not the way we should be spending money. We should be looking at securing our own border and making sure that Americans can afford the cost of living right now. We should be looking at H.R. 1, the Low Cost Energy Act, to try and make sure we can lower the cost to heat and cool American homes, lowering the cost of goods to be able to get back and forth, which would have an impact to the CPI index of goods, and also making sure that hardworking everyday Americans can get back and forth to work, take their kids to school, make sure they go to soccer and football and basketball and baseball practices. And Sean, with as many kids as you have, you know something about the cost of all of that.
Oh, I know that very well. Going to the grocery store, it gets to be expensive. You know what? If you can't win the vote by your policy, what do, Cory? You know, you buy the votes with cash. That's what Joe Biden's trying to do. All right, Cory, stay right there. Don't go anywhere. We're going to come back to you in a second.
It's more big government overreach from Biden and company as the IRS announces it is ramping up audits on wealthy Americans, large corporations, and more.
Woohoo. All right. Hillary Vaughn is live on Capitol Hill with all the details. Hey, Hillary.
Good evening, Dagan and Sean. The IRS is setting their sights on the super rich to make sure that they're paying their fair share, using billions of taxpayer cash to turn around and audit Americans. The IRS releasing their new goals to pepper the wealthy with audits, including tripling the audit rates on large corporations with over $250 million in assets, having 10 times more audits on large complex partnerships with assets over $10 million, and a 50% increase in audits on wealthy taxpayers making more than $10 million. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says that increasing audits won't increase the chance that anyone making under $400,000 is audited. But while the Biden administration insists the percentage of people making under that who get audited will not increase, it will stay the same, that's not exactly a sigh of relief when about 90% of all audits are on American taxpayers who make less than $400,000. Dagan and Sean.
Hillary Vaughn, thank you so much.
Congressman Cory Mills is still here. Congressman, you have been vowing to fight this tooth and nail, but it seems like, as Hillary just pointed out, The vast majority, 63%, so almost 2/3 of the new audits out of the Biden administration have targeted middle-class filers. So they're doing this for show, despite the fact they're intentionally screwing the working man and working woman.
Well, that's right. And look, they're not going to go after and target those who are making the $1 million+ because they have the CPAs, they have the covenants of protection on those who actually do their accounting, and they can fight it in court with the legal system through their attorneys. They're going to go after the people who's very making ends meet to destroy the middle class, as they've already done with the inflation rates that we just discussed. And they know that these individuals are not filing it with some, legal firm and a CPA. It's with everyday Americans filing it through TurboTax or through H&R Block or through the others, where they'll come back and try and audit them, look at trying to make them pay more money. And here's the thing. They'll play the game of, well, it's going to cost me $20,000, $30,000 to fight this in court, or I can just go ahead and acquiesce and pay these $9,000 fines that are not even correct. They know what they're doing and trying to target the middle class and eliminate the middle class. So this is a game that we all know too well. But here's my concern. Go back to 2004. Look at what Obama did when he actually weaponized our IRS to start going after conservatives and conservative organizations. We know that this is a weaponized government under the Biden administration. My prediction is that they're going to utilize the IRS to weaponize against conservatives once again.
That's my take, too. This is not about bringing in more revenue to the federal coffers because we have tax cheats out there. This is a massive agency that's going to go after conservatives and give them the audits, regardless of how well they file their taxes. It's about their politics, not about their taxes. But Congressman, I want to move on to this because we want to get your take on just a few hours ago, a giant American flag was unfurled in front of anti-Israel protesters at George Washington University. At first, it was just the frat bros protecting the flag at UNC, but now brave patriots are popping up on college campuses everywhere, even the University of Chicago. Watch.
USA! 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 USA!
Congressman, you serve the country, and I got to tell you what, it's beautiful to see patriotism spread across these college campuses. Frat bros coming out saying, you know what, we're going to sing patriotic songs. We're going to wave the American flag. It's a beautiful thing and contagious.
It is indeed. Nothing defeats communism, socialism, and this terrorist, kind of sympathizers than patriotism. This is one of the things, I'm not surprised when you see this, where Muriel Bowser has continually prevented herself from doing her job and making sure law enforcement takes action. But we need to be going after Cardona and the Department of Education and others, where they are not actually allowing students to go to class. We have Jewish students who are being harassed and intimidated, being prevented from going to class, and are actually at the threat of violence. We need to be looking at Title VI of the Civil Rights Act. We need to be looking at the rights for each individual as we go back to depicting what happened in 1963 in the University of Alabama during the integration of blacks into colleges. We need to start understanding that anti-Semitism is just as bad, and the intimidation tactics, the harassment tactics, the threat of violence is not going to be appropriate on these campuses. But look, here's the deal, Sean. You know as well as I do, they have found that more than half of the people who are involved in these actual protests are not even students at the universities. So we know that there's outside influence, which is actually radicalizing these young teens, and we need to take approach right now because these are the future leaders of America.
And they're the faculty members, too. I'll mention one later coming up.
That's right, Dagan.
This has been taught to them, and the taxpayers are footing the bill in myriad ways. Congressman Cory Mills, thank you so much.